Welcome, everyone, to Elevated, the podcast from Caltech Center for Technology and Management Education, where we explore the intersect of technology, project management, and leadership. I am your host, Jen Garcia. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome Zeina Barrett. With more than 25 years of experience across the Department of Defense, state services, and multiple sectors at Northrop Grumman, Zeina has led billion-dollar programs, driven process transformation, and now serves as the Program Excellence Director for the space sector. What's wonderful about Zeina is that she is a program manager's or project manager's project manager. She's a program manager's program manager. She is the one that program managers go to for advice because of her expertise, her understanding, and her empathic way of dealing with leadership. She's such a strong leader, and I'm so excited for you all to hear from her today. She is a PMP, an agile coach, and a lifelong learner, currently pursuing her MBA on the path to a doctorate. Zeina is known not only for her expertise, but also for her passion for mentoring the next generation of program leaders. Let's dive in to learning from Zeina. Zeina, welcome.
Thank you so much, Jen. I am so excited to be here with all of you today and to share a little bit of my story and things I've learned along my journey to hopefully help some of these future program managers.
Absolutely. And I think, moving forward, there is going to be a great need for even more program managers because of all the different projects that are happening and how they need to be connected and how the different various talent both in full-time, in part-time, and in contract work need to be brought together to make magic happen. And so I also want to highlight the unconventional path that you've gone on and how many people listening today and listening on after in the podcast will may also identify with the unconventional aspect. So please tell us a little bit about your journey and why is it unconventional? Tell us about your origin story.
So I'm going to take you way back. 28 years ago, it's actually 28 years ago yesterday. I joined Northrop Grumman. Now, I first started out as a temp, a data entry analyst, where they brought me in to hard code because everything was paper back then, to hard code Montgomery GI Bill enrollments. That's how our soldiers get their education benefits to go to college. And 11,000 enrollments later, it was 3 months into a 6-month contract, and they were hiring this project coordinator position. I was 19 years old, had no experience, and I took a risk and I asked, I can do that job. Why don't you try me out? Sure enough, they agreed after a lot of going back and forth in negotiations to give me that opportunity on a probationary basis. 3 months later, they hired me full time. Within 2 years, I was a project manager. Within 4 years, I was a program manager leading 500 test sites across the world. 8 years after that start, where the Army was going to move their headquarters, I was not going to move with them. I made a pivot to more of a Northrop Grumman facility, helping with Navy weapon systems programs as an operations manager. From there, it grew to command and control systems. And then from there, I actually did another pivot to state health and human services, being able to learn about our non DoD customers, both as operations manager and as a program manager. From there, I moved over to cyber and intel systems, doing a lot of the program management, but they started this new flavor called program excellence, which is our internal consultant groups, where we then help guide the next level of program managers, help with their training, coaching, development, being their trusted advisors. I was asked to then come over and stand up the technology services sector of program excellence, where I was there leading agile transformation as well, learning how to become an agile coach. And then I got an opportunity to come over to our space sector, standing up again another program excellence organization. And from there, I had an opportunity to lead as an operating unit director in P&L, a $200 million organization, billion-dollar product line for the company over a few years, watching it grow. And now I'm back into our program excellence organization. Now, what makes this an unconventional journey is I mentioned I had no schooling when I first started. And so at 19, I started my Northrop Grumman journey having not had a college degree yet. So I did it simultaneously. So those of you who say you can't do both, I disagree. It took me 10 years to earn my associates in speech communication, another 4 years to earn my bachelor's in business. And then I started leading engineers, realizing I didn't have the technical expertise. So I went back to school, got my master's in information systems with concentrations in management and systems engineering to get more of that technical background. Along the way, I went to UCLA, got my graduate project management certificate, got my PMP from PMI along that journey. I am currently in my MBA program. I'm 4 classes away from finishing my MBA program on my path to hopefully a DBA in leadership.
Wow. I love there's so much to to pick apart here and to ask you about. Number one, first of all, it was a 6-month contract because with those 11,000 data points, they thought that this was going to take that long, and you finished in 3 months. And
Yes.
then afterward, you had not only the courage, but the insight, the anticipating the need of what you could be and the gap that you could fill to suggest that you go into a position that others may not see that or think that you're qualified for. Tell me a bit about the character, the thought process that comes into suggesting that to leaders that you've only known for 3 months in a job that you've only been in for 3 months.
So when you're young, you don't necessarily weigh out all of the risks when you make that kind of courageous ask. I think looking back, I'm proud of myself for doing it, but if you put all of the knowledge I have today into who I was back then, I probably never would have even asked. I mean, that was such a risk move, but I've also learned that if you don't ask, the answer is always no. So
Mm,
take the risk, ask the question, what's the worst they can say? No, and then you can pivot and do something else. And
right.
so that lesson has actually taught me in always be curious, always ask, because you never know what the answer might be and what additional doors may open up.
Yeah.
And I think for me at the time, I was trying to figure out a way to go to school. I was, trying to figure out a job that might bring me a little bit more stability.
Mm,
And when you read the description of this project coordinator, it was communication, it was organization, it was um, being able to, provide kind of direction to these sites at a lower level. And I think in my mind, it was, well, I can read, I can absorb information, and I've been told I'm a pretty good communicator. So why not? Let me give it a shot. It did take several conversations with leadership who maybe did not have as much confidence in my ability at the time. And I was able to win them over, but it really took the establishing my competence in
Mm.
that new area and proving through my actions, through my relationship building and building trust that I
Mm.
could get the job done. So I am still very appreciative for that opportunity so many years ago, and it has laid the foundation for where I am today.
And I remember in the conversation we were having to prep for this conversation, you had mentioned that you told them, "Hey, listen, if I'm going to do, let me show you, and if I don't do it, then hire someone else." Tell
Yep.
me about that conversation, and how did you know to show them that they had a way out and give them that comfortability and give them that and establish that trust?
So because I was hired in as a temp originally, it was a 6-month contract. And at the end of that contract, I was supposed to walk away and they were supposed to walk away. They were either going to look for somebody more permanent,
Mm.
bring in a different temp. I was only there for a 6-month period. And so because I finished in that 3 months, I still had 3 months of free work, really, that I had left to give them. I wasn't going to just walk away
Right.
from the remainder of my contract. And so, pulling on my negotiations hat, I sat there and was like, how could I pose this in a way that gives them the lowest risk posture, which
Mm.
was, you've brought me on as a temp. In 3 months, I walk away no matter what. But if you like what I do, and if you agree with my approach, then let's have a conversation about bringing me on full time. And that's exactly what we did. They started to give me that project coordinator role in that probationary 3-month period. And
Mm.
at the end, it was, why would we open up this for someone else? She's already doing the job. We like what she's doing. So that's where I got to transition to a full time role.
Lowest risk posture. And they did the math and they said, "Yep, adds up. You're
It
on."
adds up. They already had the contract, they were already paying for me,
Yeah.
so might as well take advantage of the work I could perform versus having me wait for additional data entry items. And I think, at thinking back, I think I even offered to them if any more enrollments came in, I would do that on top
Well,
of that project coordinator role. So there was no losses in terms of
nice.
the opportunity space for them.
Yeah, and I love the image of 19-year-old Zaina thinking, "How can I negotiate with these leaders? What can I do to make it a win for them?" That's excellent. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Who knew
Uh,
that was going to pave the way for program management negotiations?
right. Right. And we'll get into that because you gave me some really great tips that I want to highlight for our audience too. So next question for you is you when exactly did you realize that this was going to be what was the turning point? When did you realize that this was going to be a full career, a program or project or program management career? When did that happen? And then when did you decide I need to start going into more certifications in this area and whatnot?
So it was actually a health decision
Mm.
that pushed me into that direction. When I first started college, I was a music major. I was focused on vocal performance. I was going to be an opera singer. And I, was working as a temp to pay my way through school. I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma at the age of 21. And so that definitely puts the world in perspective for you. And while I don't wish that upon anyone, it gave me a real wake up call in what was important in my life. It showed me the value of time, and it showed me the value of what was really important to me. Now, while that ended my music career, I was already working in this program management path, and I loved engaging with soldiers and managing these, 500 sites across the world. So that really was that eye-opening opportunity of, well, if I can't do music the way I wanted to do it, maybe this is the right path. Maybe this was fate opening up another door on this career journey. And the leadership, the challenges, the problem solving all came together in my ADHD brain and gave me something that I could thrive in and be passionate about. So while it was a personal journey, I think it it really was that I fell into something that I happen to really enjoy. And so that's where I focused a lot of my schooling on, focusing on business, on program management, on systems engineering to give me not only the credibility from the work experience, but the credibility from an education experience as well.
Mm, And of course, I have to catch the ADHD reference. Tell me how you're able to manage that, which I completely identify with, and program manage. I mean, how do you manage that and stay so organized and such that you are a leader of program managers? Give us all your tips.
So I will tell you that everyone is different with their ADHD. I live in my notebooks
Mm,
and my note writing. I have to have the process of writing things down to help it sink into my brain, but it's really being super organized, right? Dedicating time to thinking, dedicating time to problem solving, and really getting into time management. But I think what fuels my ADHD brain is no 2 days are alike.
mm,
A day in the life of a program manager is problem solving, it's creativity, it's negotiation skills, it's conflict resolution, it's communication. So while you can be an introvert or an extrovert, it's connecting with people, and that ADHD thrives in making connections differently on a neurodivergent scale or problem solving in ways that others don't see.
mm,
So for me, it has actually been a strength to bring that different perspective where others may be very methodical or sequential. I can look at it from a systems view and see it coming in sideways or seeing additional risks that others may not have seen or uncovered. Um, so living in my notebooks, right? Time management. And I think it's that no 2 days are alike. So I don't get bored.
mm.
And I think that helps with both the attention deficit, but also in the structure of time management and being able to provide some sort of regular intervals for creativity, innovation, and just being able to think.
I hear that there's actually note-taking tools, so your pen and paper. Are there other digital tools that you favor or that you recommend?
So I love Dragon Dictation. It is an app where I can write my thoughts, speaking them, and it's actually really good with compositions. So while I can type very fast, I talk even faster. And so being able to leverage apps like Dragon Dictation for note taking, I've started leveraging AI tools that can take all of my notes and synthesize it into executive summaries where that's now a time saver for me. I will still look at it and make sure it's all in the right context. Don't let it do the work for you, but work smarter, not harder. And
Absolutely.
I even use Dragon Dictation for my school papers because I can do it in the car. I can do it walking the dogs, writing out those outlines and talking through them where I can save time throughout my day. And then when I finally sit down, I can start doing the actual research and pulling together references and sources. From another tool perspective, Outlook is my go to. I have one calendar. I don't have multiple calendars, it all resides in one. So, personal, professional is all in one calendar.
Mm.
If I'm doing multiple calendars, something will get lost along the way. So even appointments with my kids or my husband, doctor's appointments, school, it is all laid out in a singular calendar so that everything is in one place. Um, so definitely the paper pencil is is still, and I still do my list writing, and it feels really good to cross things off of my list when you
Doesn't it?
finish a task. But being able to balance with the kinetics that I need for my ADHD brain and the online tools that can benefit everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you were talking about your career and the unconventional steps, and you had mentioned that it took longer than some to finish that associate and then the bachelor's. Uh, and tell me, and that was, I'm sure, family and work and juggling it all. What were How has that shaped how you lead and mentor others? Because you have that understanding of that there's life outside of work. How has that shaped your leadership skills?
So I think it has taught me to lead with empathy
Mm,
because you really don't know what others are going through. You don't know what face they're putting on coming into work, and you want to be supportive of your employees. But it has also taught me to give feedback when maybe they're not ready to hear it.
mm,
And so I've had people say, Zaina, you tell me what I need to hear, not necessarily what I want to hear. So I
mm,
don't take excuses. If I could be a single mom going to school full time and working full time, then it comes down to choices. And so I don't let people get away with making excuses, but
mm.
I also am very empathetic to where people are and can still support them in their journey no matter where they are.
I
And I
love
think
that.
that's helped
Mm,
me frame how I give feedback to my mentees in a very different way, where I can bridge the professional and personal
mm,
versus looking strictly at the career focus or the career journey, because it's both. It has to be both. If you're asking people to give one up for the other, then they're not going to get to a successful place where they are satisfied both personally and professionally. So I
mhm,
think for me, it always has to be both. It
mm.
can't be one or the other.
Yeah, yeah. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Tell me, so let's move in to some tips to our fellow program and project managers here on listening in. When we were chatting, you said before we were talking about contracts, and you mentioned something that you're noticing that is a commonplace and it shouldn't be. Tell me more about that.
So I have found that many program managers have not read their contracts. And that just floors me. If you're a program manager, project manager, you need to know your contract inside and out. As a program manager, I created my Bible, right? I would print out my contract. I would have things highlighted, terms and conditions, every shall, will, do, must statement in that contract. I knew as the program manager. Now, yes, I had my contracts lead that should also know it inside and out, that I could have supporting me. But I, as the PM, was on the hook. So, Jen, it completely floors me that some of these program managers have only read parts of their contract and not cover to cover. You need to know your contract. If you have questions, you should be reaching out to your business manager, your contracts representative, the contracts officer for for your customer. If you don't understand what you are delivering, shame on you. Shame on you. Read your contract.
I remember you said when you're teaching this, some are nodding, saying, "Yeah, of course," and others are furiously taking notes, and you're like, "Okay, now I
Yeah.
know who's not doing it."
Yes, I'm helping teach a class this week, and about 50-50 of the class, it's 25 students, and 50% of them were writing it down to go and read their contract. It shocks me. So please, if there is one thing you take away from this podcast, please go read your contract.
Yes. Yes. As tedious as it is, so important. I noticed there are little things that slip into contracts I have with clients. Oh, how did that get there? Let's discuss this before we sign here. Very, very important. So tell me common mistakes. What are they? What are they
Oh.
making them, and how do you coach them through besides this one? Because this is probably one of the biggest, but others. How do you coach through those common mistakes? What are they, and what's your advice?
So I think one of the biggest ones is feeling like you have to be the smartest person in the room,
Mm,
right? Where as a PM, you are leading a PMO, a whole program management office.
mm,
You have functional leaders in business management, legal, contracts, supply chain that are subject matter experts in each of their areas. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room. So, making sure that you are heeding the advice and listening to those partners is probably one of the biggest mistakes. The
mm,
second one is self awareness and
mm,
being able to hear feedback just as much as you give feedback. And that's a lot to do with leadership in addition to program management, because I think there is a difference between being a manager and a leader. Sometimes you can be both. Sometimes you have to be very um, intuitive on which one leads, right? Whether you have to manage a challenging situation. I think the other one that I hear frequently is you don't plan and you don't take risk management into play, where you let things boil up and become issues because you're not actively mitigating risks. If
mm,
you are constantly dealing with issues and not looking down the road,
mhm,
then there may be opportunities that you miss. There
mm,
are risks that are going to boil up and become issues because you haven't appropriately mitigated them or transferred them or avoided them.
yeah.
I use the example of sometimes you can't see the forest through the trees. And sometimes, in order to save lots of money down the road, it might cost you $10,000, $15,000 upfront to save millions down the road. Maybe you could buy a different tool. Maybe you can calibrate something differently. Maybe there's a component that might be able to be swapped out. But
Mm,
if you're not looking down the road to see what that impact of that decision is, you
mm,
can't spend that 15K and all of a sudden you're spending millions down the road because you chose not to see the potential value in that opportunity up front. So
mm,
trying not to be myopic in the decision making and really looking down the road, I would say are some of the key areas and missteps that I see in program managers.
Thank you for that. I hope we're all taking notes. I know I'm going to review this and make sure that I'm checking these all off. This is, and it's such important character to instill, especially the open to feedback part, because as you mentioned, it doesn't always feel good, but it saves time. It makes us all more efficient, and it makes for a better team when feedback can be taken from no from anybody. If there's someone knowledgeable in the group and has some feedback that's going to save time or money, it's we should all be open to that because it's really about the goal, not about us, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I love that. So tell me, so you've worked across so many different programs within different military sections. So tell me all the different sectors you've been involved with.
I've done all of the branches of service now:
Sure.
Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, and now Space Force. So all of the branches of service, and then also Intel communities and state health and human services. So non DoD state health and human services, which is a very different contracting arena and domain than, let's say, the traditional government, federal,
Yeah.
DoD, even the intel communities follow the federal acquisition regulations or the FARs. Um,
Okay. And
so,
so
yeah.
how does program management change or stay the same between all those different branches of service?
So the foundations of program management never changing.
Mm,
The good aspects of program management never changes, right? Making sure that you are doing program planning, having a solid schedule baseline, having a solid cost baseline, understanding your resources, quality, all of those things are foundational to program management, no
mm,
matter who your customer is, no matter what customer domain you're in. All of those are also part of the PMI, PMP foundations. Now, does having all of that foundation knowledge or having your PMP make you a good or bad PM? No, it's all of the experiences that you learn along the way. It's knowing you got to read your contract first and foremost. It's knowing that you're dealing with risk management. It's knowing how to build trusting relationships with your customer communities, no matter what domain you're in. So those things go across domains, they go across contract types. Foundationally, it's very much the same. If you go and build a house and have a contract with a general contractor, it's the same as building a weapon system for a, DoD customer.
mm,
The margin of error is much slimmer and you want to make sure quality is much higher, but it is the same process, the same planning goes into it, the same listening skills to understanding customer expectations and outcomes. It's
mm.
all the same.
Wow. I do want to tell the group here that if you, as Stacy shared in the chat, if you have any questions or comments, please do put them in the chat. We'll all keep an eye on those before, so that you could have a chance to ask Zaina some questions if you'd like. All right. So thank you so much for that. That is always true, isn't it? The foundations remain important. So tell me about pivoting to the leadership and people development. I'm hearing a lot of relationship language coming from you. Tell me about how first, how you call yourself an action-oriented but empathetic leader. How do you balance holding people accountable, but also being empathetic when there is a deadline to reach here?
Well, but that's just it. So if people feel comfortable communicating with you as a leader,
Mm,
then if they run into challenges, they are much more likely to stop by your office, say, "Hey, I'm struggling with this. Hey, something's come up. I'm not going to be able to meet this deadline. Or can I get some help?" And then you can accommodate, right? Juggle things around. You can be flexible around being empathetic, making sure people have what they need. But if you are so driven that you can't see that the team is struggling,
mm,
then they're going to miss deadlines and it's going to be too late for you to pivot and be able to support them and help them before that deadline occurs.
yeah.
And so to me, accountability is part of that communication chain.
Mm, mm,
If I've given you a task, Jen, and I've said, "Hey, I need it by next Monday," and you come to me Thursday and say, "Hey, I can't get it done. I'm going to need some help." That's accountability. You are being accountable for what you can and cannot do, and
mm,
that you are raising your hand and asking for support. My first response to that is, "Thank you so much. Thank
mm,
you so much for bringing that to my attention. How else might you think, asking you, how do you think we can achieve this in a different way? If you're not available, who else do you think could help backfill your role for this next couple of days?" And
mm,
so partnering with people, it's not all on you to solve all of the problems, but showing accountability and responsibility is soliciting from your team members on what is their best approach. If they really are stuck, absolutely roll up your sleeves and dig in and help. But
mhm.
if they have ideas, let them have the room to foster those ideas and still meet those deadlines in spite of challenges that may have arisen.
Yeah, yeah. That establishing and building a relationship that leads to being open to sharing about struggles and being accountable. That reminds me of something my dad taught me. Shout out to Danny Garcia, recently retired, 43 years with LA County Department of Public Social Services.
Love it.
He would tell me, Jen, when I first started my career, he'd say, all right, you have this new job. Now, every Monday, I want you to ask your colleagues what they did for the weekend. And I was like, Dad, they don't want to talk to me about that. He's like, trust me. Yes, they do. And so I started doing that. And then he said, yeah, and also ask your boss, knock on the door. Hey, how'd it go this weekend? And he said, people will share their lives with you. And it's so nice to learn about what they're up to. And then he said exactly that. You understand what could be potential challenges in their lives and how and what's important to them, and you establish trust from there he said there's magic that happens when people work well together. And I didn't really understand when I was starting out how important that is.
Oh, yes, your dad had it 100% correct. Um, my team, it's being vulnerable with your teams too and sharing what went good and what didn't go well in your life too as a leader. And I'll tell you, last year I was diagnosed with breast cancer,
Mm,
and my team rallied around me because one, I already had a trusting relationship with my 450 employees. And any one of them could have walked into my door and I knew them all by name and exactly what they did.
that's amazing.
But when I struggled, they were all there ready to pick up the slack, pick up where I couldn't be, and help us cross the finish line together in spite of me not being at 100%.
Mm,
That's when you know your work family has become a real family, right? And that to me is when you have a very high performing team
Wow.
because they are willing to go to bat for each other. They
Mhm.
are willing to help when others falter because it's no longer about one person or individuals crossing the finish line or showing what they can do.
Yeah.
It's all about the team dynamics and how does the entire team cross the finish line together. At
Mm,
that point, it's you either all cross the finish line together or no one crosses the finish line. And
mm,
it becomes that binary of everybody pitching in and gratitude, right, comes to mind
yeah.
of how amazing an experience I got to have with those teams along my journey. But you foster that. That is done through hard work. It is done through leadership. And Jen, your dad had it right. You
Mm,
have to understand what is important to people. You have to understand what motivates people. And it's not to say that you're scheming behind the scenes, but you
yeah.
have to be genuine in interest and wanting to learn more about them and make true connections with your peers, with your employees, with your bosses and your leadership.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah, that's I'm so sorry to hear about what you've been dealing with. I
Thank you.
I we spoke behind the scenes about this, and I shared a few things with you, and I think I just I know that you're such a strong strong woman. It's amazing.
Well, I
So
appreciate
proud of
that, but
you.
I will tell people it's not resiliency. Right now, I'm just surviving. Give
Mm.
me a few more years and then we can talk about resiliency.
Yes, and we can't wait for that conversation. So let's bookmark
Absolutely.
that. We're bookmarking that. I remember you shared that your work family gave you a special button. Can you tell us more about this button?
So, when we talked about feedback, right, it's about listening and making sure that everybody's on the same page.
Mm,
And if my team was presenting program status, we were going through financial reviews, I would hit my imaginary I do not believe button. Show me, prove to me, tell me how you got to this conclusion.
mm,
Because there were certain things that just did not add up. And so they actually created an actual button for me and they wrote on it, they recorded my voice, and it became my I do not believe button. So I would take this into various program reviews, into different meetings, and so I could save my breath. And as soon as they started, giving me a story that I couldn't quite believe, I started hitting my button. And that's when they knew to slow down, stop, help me
mm,
understand, give me more context. Sometimes it was a misunderstanding. Sometimes there were errors in the data. But it made it a light point of conversation. I wasn't attacking anyone. It was really help me understand. I do not believe. Help me understand. If
mm.
I don't understand, my bosses sure aren't going to be able to understand it. So we made it comical. It made it light
Yeah.
in terms of dealing with really heavy, complex problems. We could crack a smile, joke a little bit, and then dig into some real problem solving. But it gave everybody the breath that we needed to, okay, let's pause. Zaina doesn't get it. Let's take a breath and see, okay, if we can't explain it to her, then how are we going to explain it to her boss? So maybe our story has holes in it. And
Mm.
so I take that button with me everywhere I go now. It's in my work office right now. I need to bring it with me to my home office as well. But if you're leaders out there and you have teams that try to sell you a story that you don't believe, hit your imaginary I do not believe button. You'd be surprised what that might be able to get you.
Well, and I love the physical nature of it where it's like, that's great. I love it. And the fact that it becomes comical but serious. This is a serious issue, but that you're able to make light of it and that it brings focus in to attention rather to the issue. That's wonderful. I love it. So, looking forward, you spent nearly 3 decades at Northrop, and now you're coaching program managers as their internal consultant. What is the most exciting aspect of your career right now for you? And how is that informing the MBA and the doctorate?
Oh, so I love what I do.
Mm,
I love being at Northrop. I feel like I have been able to gain so many different experiences across a very large enterprise organization.
mm.
And, the doctorate has always been a dream of mine. I will become Dr. Z someday. And I think when I finally do leave Northrop, it's going to open up doors for me teaching
Mm,
as a professor somewhere, somehow, whether it's my ideal of a community college. I would prefer that more than a large university.
Tell us
I,
why.
well, I think it's because of my experience. I went to night school.
Mm,
I was one of those adult learners in night school and working hard to figure out my next steps and that path. And it is a different mindset. It is a different mindset when you have learners that want to benefit everything that they can in that classroom environment
mm,
versus the 18, 19-year-olds that are still navigating and trying to figure out what it is that they want to be. It is different. Can I do the 18, 19-year-olds? Absolutely, but that's not where I thrive. I
mm,
feel like I am most comfortable in my own skin when I am with those adult learners who have had both the work experience and now just trying to back it up with that education experience.
yeah.
That's my core audience. That's where I can feel like I can bridge that experience, leadership, school gap, and the light bulbs go off. And to me, there is nothing better in this world than watching that light bulb go off, that spark of recognition and acknowledgement and comprehension that happens. There is no better feeling. So, in my future life, that's definitely in the cards.
Wow. That is so exciting, and we're so proud of you. That's gonna be amazing, and I can already tell you're going to be an incredible instructor. I've been around a lot of them in my past. I was 16 years in academia teaching at various community colleges, and you know a good one when you see one. So,
Thank
you know?
you. Thank you.
Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait to see Dr. Z shine and have a lot of light bulbs going off around her in the classroom. It's going to be fantastic.
I certainly hope so.
Wow. Thank you so much for this fantastic conversation. In the chat, you'll see that Stacy has uploaded your LinkedIn. And tell us, is there another? Is that the way to contact you? And if anybody has questions, can they? Is that the one way?
That is the best way to
Okay.
reach out to me is through LinkedIn. I am constantly on there responding to people and networking with people. So That's the other one. Take advantage of this opportunity, network with each other, network with me, Jen, Stacy, others at Caltech. It's how I got to be here on this podcast. Thank you again for having me.
Of
But
course.
it was through that network of amazing individuals that you run across and find something that you want to talk more about with them. So, yes, LinkedIn is the best way to reach me. Thank you.
Absolutely. And, our program management courses, all of our courses are really helpful in understanding where you're going to go, in what direction you can go, and especially because we have PMI behind us. In fact, we're going to be at PMI Orange County in September, and we're all looking forward to that. It's going to be fantastic, and we're hoping to have some rising stars like you in our certificate programs, because it would be wonderful to interact with them and really just see those little light bulbs going off as we teach in our various programs. Thank you so much, Zaina. I'm so excited for you. You have such a bright, exciting future, and we're looking forward to part two, because you're coming back on, just so you know.
I am ready for part 2. Let me get that DBA first, and
Absolutely.
then I will definitely be back for part 2. But thank you so much, Jen. It's been wonderful getting to know you and the Caltech team. I am super excited for this partnership and where we can go from here.
Yes, we have a lot to do. Let's go. Go Northrop.
Northrop.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for being here. We're excited to see you next week, and we will publish this and post it on our LinkedIn once it's able to be viewed. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.